Oh man. Okay. Well, we'll just start.
Okay.
We'll go. Mike Flanagan with you here, joined, and it's an honor to be talking to the one and only Joe Cocker today.
How you doing, Mike?
I'm good. How are you?
On my way to Moscow.
What's going to happen in Moscow?
I'm playing a birthday party for some well-off Russians.
This is a good party. Now, when's this going to take place?
I'll be back by Sunday night, so it's Saturday night, the show.
Oh, you are going to be so jet lagged.
You're not kidding. Yeah, I've done it a couple of times, this one, but...
For the same birthday party? Or
No.
Oh.
But I mean, I've done these special kind of occasions, just, the Russians, the oil people and all that.
Well,
they have their own little world,
They've got to be flashed when you walk in the door and go into it.
I've been going there ever since the wall came down.
Really?
It's over 25 years, and over 20 years, and I still never quite get used to it. Because you always have to have a visa every time you go to Russia.
Sure.
And they a lot of them don't smile. Just the regular people, when you're just walking about, they all look terribly serious. And now I hear there's an anti-Putin rally.
Oh yeah.
On the same day we're in Moscow, so
you're going to get to catch all kinds of cultural things.
It's a changing world, isn't it?
It is a changing world. Well, I want to talk about this changing world just a minute with you and ask you a couple of loaded questions. But the other, like about 2 weeks ago, I found on the cable they were rerunning Mad Dogs and Englishmen.
Right.
Which I had not seen since I saw it in the theater in 1970.
Which was kind of special with triple screen and, for its time.
Oh, its time. It was wonderful. And I was living in Oklahoma at the time, so I would run up to Tulsa and interview Leon.
Yeah.
And it was just a great chemistry, but that was a huge band. And
it was a huge entourage. I don't think anyone had ever used two drums, maybe Grateful Dead or someone at that time.
Yeah.
But we were pretty much, it was very, it was different even for, it was 1970,
Yes. And so what do you remember when you see this film?
I haven't seen the film, actually, for a while,
I hadn't either. And I forgot just what crazy times those were.
They were.
Didn't forget, but...
It almost killed me,
Well, I'm sure.
By the end of it, I was kind of just rolled up in a ball, and I was it was, I don't know. When you how you are when you're really young, you kind of feel invincible, and we started off pretty invincible, but it took its toll.
Well, you played quite a few cities with that. That was a major undertaking, and that was a couple of years after Woodstock.
Right. Well, at the time, I just wanted to work with Leon.
Sure.
And I'd had a band called the Grease Band. Do you remember before that?
Yes.
And we'd just broken up, and I think Leon's. He sort of said that I'll do it with you, I'll tour with you, but I want to put the band together. And so he he ended up getting all his old friends from Delaney and Bonnie.
Right.
And I went right along with it, because they were all great musicians. Jim Keltner, Jim Gordon,
Claudia Lanier, the singers.
The singers are all fantastic.
Cry Me a
Donna
River
Washburn.
on that. And it sounds like you're just jumping into Cry Me a River on the album. And then it just...
Well, I never forget him playing me that. He came up to me and just went, da-da, da-da, what do you think of this?
Yeah.
And before you knew it, we were doing it.
They were when he got inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame last year, and Elton John and all that, and they were talking about all the things he participated in before Joe Cocker.
Yeah.
Oh man.
With Glenn Campbell and
Sure.
we worked with a lot of cats. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I want to back up a second because I also saw Woodstock recently, and I that was my other question: is what do you remember about Woodstock?
Yeah. That's a pretty fixed memory with me because, we'd been touring again, the Grease Band and I. We'd had little help from my friends who was had made us a little known in the States. And then we were slowly building up. We were playing to bigger and bigger audiences, across America. And, we were like school kids thinking the bubble's going to burst at any moment, And then I remember a guy saying, there's a big festival coming up somewhere on the East Coast, and you're playing it. And I said, he goes, no, I'm talking big. So like, we couldn't even get a hotel within range. I think we were in Connecticut. And that morning I got in a helicopter, a little bubble helicopter, and the band had already gone ahead, And as I was flying, we were getting closer and closer, and this guy said, what's all that over on the horizon there? See all that stuff? And I was like, and he went, oh, God, I think that's your audience, And we came in over the top of that, and to this day, no one really knows how many people were there.
Oh, it was huge.
Whether 250,000 plus or what.
Well, they broke down the fences. It seems like you were playing in good weather, as I remember.
In fact, if you look at the video, somebody goes, Joe, look over your shoulder, and there was this massive black cloud that was coming in just as we finished.
Sure.
And from then on, it was Mudfest, wasn't it?
It really was. Well, you had like a couple of albums out at that time, as I remember.
Correct.
You'd done an early cover of "Dear Landlord." I remember that.
Yeah, that was on the second record.
"Bird on a Wire," all those things. But how did you go from singing in bars or wherever you were to all of a sudden being up there with the top with everybody else? I mean, you were always mentioned. I always wanted you in my sets on the radio.
Really? No, I mean, in the space of 2 years or 3, in 1967 with Chris Stainton, who was a keyboard bass player from Sheffield, England too,
Yes.
And so we'd had this #1 record with Little Help in England, and we were kind of, thinking we'd missed all, we weren't part of all the Who and all the teeny bop kind of revolution,
right.
And we were thinking, well, this is just going to fade out, And I remember Dee Anthony, who managed me, it was almost like comic book stuff, Dee was like almost like mafia,
Right.
And he came to see us in London in this club and said, you want to come to America, guys, I'll pay you $2,000 a week. And you can imagine from Sheffield, England, to suddenly hear this, or $2,000 a night, he was saying you can go out for. And we were thinking, my God, because we always wanted to go to the States, and suddenly it was all on the cards.
Yeah.
know? Yeah.
Well, you were you were kind of the tail end of the British invasion.
That's what I mean.
You weren't in
the Animals and all those guys had already gone through.
Yeah.
We were part of the second wave, or as whatever they called it.
But it was always really cool. I mean, you and Rod Stewart were breaking about the same time.
And Zeppelin were on the back, just
yeah.
coming behind us.
Yeah. And you had the very powerful voice. When they recorded you, did they have to turn you down? Is that?
I still have that problem a little bit. No, I've always been able to blow microphones out. I don't know what it is, but it was amazing to go from making a pound of like $3 a night in the pubs to within 2 years to suddenly. That's probably why I ended up blowing it all, because it was just amazing to go. 1 minute I've got a greasy quiff from the Elvis days, and the next minute we're all wearing flower power clothes and.
You had the tie-dye. I mean, I think you're the first guy in motion picture history to be in a tie-dye T-shirt.
I never thought of myself as a hippie. I never quite made it as a hippie. A rocker.
But they loved you.
Hey.
And I remember the John Belushi, Joe Cocker imitation.
Right.
He may have done it better than anybody. I mean, I think he fell all over the stage.
No, he did it.
I never saw you do that.
But no, if you listen to that, he did a good job vocally too. I mean,
yes.
he really got into it.
He got it. Well, now I want to talk about your album, and you're a Colorado resident now. We live in the same state,
right.
And you live.
I live in a little town called Crawford.
Okay.
It's only got about 600 people in it.
It seemed like I remembered you living in Nederland at one point.
No,
not in Nederland.
No,
okay.
never been on.
But
you're on the west side.
Okay.
We're about 40 minutes from Montrose.
Okay.
Which is the airport where people go to Telluride.
That's right.
Aspen and everything. So it's like it's called the North Fork Valley. Very beautiful. We're having big arguments now because the gas frackers are trying to come in.
Oh yeah.
So everybody's up in arms right now.
Well, you're a hometown guy. You're living the little town life.
Yeah, and suddenly we're threatened with the Black Canyon, because I became a trout fisherman over the years.
Okay.
Love to go down the Gunnison River every
beautiful.
year. It's one of my favorite treats. So when all these oil and gas people are saying, well, we can do this stuff safely,
Mm-hmm.
I don't. I mean, everybody's really. I've never seen such support from the community.
Interesting. It's very interesting times. Well, a lot of people found their way to Colorado at that time, but not everybody stayed. I remember Chicago having that big that big studio that they had here.
Really,
Caribou, the Caribou.
well, it's
studio.
not an easy place to sing.
Okay,
The altitude,
I'm sure.
you know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's very difficult.
So what do you have to do when you're going to sing in Colorado?
I don't do too much performing in Colorado.
Really?
I mean, no. I mean, once in a while we do like the Belly Up in Aspen, or the jazz festivals, and I do a thing for our charity Cocker Kids.
Okay.
Which is we do in Hotchkiss. We've done 2 of those, fundraisers.
Sure.
And but I mean, they always bring out an oxygen tank at the side of the stage. Usually the sax player ends up needing it more than the singer.
Sure. Well, tell me about the new album. Tell me what you're doing now, and what we're going to be playing on the radio from.
Well, I've got an album out which was released in Europe. It's called Hard Knocks.
Okay.
With Matt Soletic producing.
Okay.
And so it's gotten released quite a while behind. It's already been in Europe and done its thing. You know what I mean? Because Europe is my bread and butter. The German fans are like my biggest audience.
In Germany they love the old blues and the old
yeah,
rockabilly.
That rock blues connection.
That whole Bear family label over there. They've
and the
really
straight
gone
beat.
crazy.
They love that. I think it comes from the umpire days.
Well, you came out of a tradition where a lot of British kids were getting into American blues.
Yeah.
And just kind of added your own twist and power to it.
Right. Over there, there's a few people always fascinated with that. Why did Steve Winwood and you guys? I mean, what made you all take to the blues?
Mm-hmm.
Or as if we sort of picked it out and said, well, let's do blues. I mean, not that. Because to us it was like once we researched rock and roll and got into the B-sides of like Chuck Berry and Little Richard.
Yeah.
That's how we found the blues connection. And so it wasn't, it was a feeling thing, it still is, really.
And unlike the kids of today, you didn't have the internet, so you couldn't just download things. You had to really get records that had been imported.
Yeah. I remember going to, I had a friend and we would send off, and they weren't cheap,
Right.
At the time. They would be the equivalent of about $100,
Wow.
Each time you go and import an album. And so we would, I was only a gas fitter at the time, and, we would get, absolutely enthralled with Sonny Boy Williams and Muddy Waters, And it was a natural, I don't know, when we got to music, Traffic. Do you remember Traffic? With Steve
absolutely.
Winwood? We thought, and the band, it was an amazing time, 67. Or, because like you say, I missed that first part of it with Cream.
We don't have any videos of you with the long hair and the beetle cut doing
They
all
might
that.
have in Europe, in Germany and stuff. They might have a bit of that.
But so you mentioned Muddy. I mean, what's some other albums you remember grabbing at that time and being really happy to have snared?
Yeah, well, Ray Charles was always my mentor.
Oh yeah.
So when Ray came on the scene, those early Atlantic records.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it literally, as a singer, I suddenly, my friends kind of disowned me because I just got so obsessed with Ray and like learning his nuances, and all the little phrasing licks that, I almost lost all my friends for a while there.
Well, he was amazing, and he changed his style. I mean, he started one way. Who was it that he said he was trying to do imitations
well,
of?
He did Nat
King
King Cole,
yeah.
didn't he, originally? Yeah.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
That's what he was doing, and then when he discovered Ray Charles in there.
And a lot of English singers, too, all, were, picked up on Ray straight away. Because, he was like the forerunner of soul.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Before Marvin Gaye or any Motown.
Yeah.
He seemed like he was the man,
Well, now, the other thing, did you invent the air guitar? I mean, are you the first guy to sit there and actually play an air guitar?
Well, I'm left-handed, so there might be a few right-handed.
I don't remember anybody ever doing that before you.
No. Well, it was sheer frustration, when people used to say to me, spastic, that I had spastic motions. I remember reading a few of these reviews and being really horrified. Like, what the hell?
What do they mean? This is me.
Well, because I would do the imitation piano and you know what I mean, but,
Right.
but just naturally. I mean, because I don't play. Even now
You're the
play.
singer in the band.
Hey.
Who did you enjoy working with back in the day? Besides the Grease band? Who were some of the other people that you encountered or
Yeah.
had moments with?
Well, it was we were all a bit bitchy back then. We'd all got this long hair.
Yeah.
So nobody ever liked anybody else. It was like, I remember we toured with Jethro Tull and Ian Anderson, he's a great player.
Yes.
But we all hated them because they used to eat apples and oranges, We were all like greasy cheeseburgers. And, the Grease band was what it was about.
Well, now there's Jethro Tull history. They were the ones that got tear gassed at Red Rocks because there was a riot going on.
I was just looking at that Barry Fay book.
Yes.
And because I was on the one where Three Dog Night.
Okay.
And then Hendrix closed. And I remember, he mentions in this room that he found me cowering in some room. And the reason was because we were being tear gassed. And I'd never experienced, it was a horrible thing, especially for a singer.
Oh, yeah.
You gag instantly when you smell that stuff. And so we were like, we just found a room where we were hiding from that stuff, really,
So.
But I can remember that day vividly, yeah.
Great. Well, I appreciate you spending some time with me today. What's life like now? What's your day to day? What do you do on a normal basis when you aren't going to Moscow to play at a private birthday party?
I fell in love with because I'd lived in Santa Barbara with my wife Pam for quite a few years, and we did a show in Telluride in about '91, and the idea was we were going to get just a summer dropout place, on the West Slope. But we fell in love with it, I love the seasons, and I go walking with my dogs, when I'm fishing in the summer. I grow tomatoes, which is a passion of mine. I built 2 greenhouses, so I even grow them in wintertime, and I grow all different varieties that I get from all over the world.
Great.
So I find plenty to do.
All right. Well, we are looking forward to hearing the new album, and we really want to thank you for
Hard Knocks.
Hard
Mike,
Knocks.
yeah.
Okay, cool. Well, my guest today has been Joe Cocker, and good luck with Moscow, and we'll talk again soon.
Peace, Mike.
All right.